Today, I'm going to dive into Dbol. I'm going to preface the video by saying I'm not a doctor. This is for entertainment purposes only. I don't condone anabolic steroid use. I took them many years ago, and I recommend a healthy and clean lifestyle. But I'm just going to give my experiences with Dbol. I've taken it a few times over the years. It was one of, I'd say one of the steroids that I'd put up on my list as far as how much I liked it. So I'm just going to go through all that and kind of let you guys know what I think, give my opinion on this. I did it with Trent already, and I'm going to keep the series going. So Dbol I thought would be a good second one to do because this is one of the ones that on online steroid forums is often recommended as, something to take for your first cycle alongside test. So back in, 2010 when I first started with all this, for my very first cycle, I did 500 milligrams of test enanthate along with Dbol. So Dbol was kind of the thing that was popularized with as being a kickstart for your cycle because, it's going to take roughly 4 weeks for the test enanthate to kick in. So before that, you would take the Dbol to kick things off. And I want to say the first 2 weeks I did 25 milligrams and then I went right to 50 at week 3. Now, from my experiences, I wouldn't really notice too much with Dbol for the first 2 weeks. So it would take about 2 weeks to kind of kick in for me to where I was really feeling it. And then you'd run it for another 4 weeks, so upwards of 6 weeks before you kind of hit that point of diminishing returns. At 6 weeks, I'd kind of feel a drop off as far as I wouldn't be getting the same effect out of it as I did from weeks 2 through 6. So really 2 weeks for it to kind of do its thing. Some people will say you can take oral anabolic steroids, as a pre-workout. But I never saw much success with that compared to having them loaded in my system. And then after that 2 week mark, I'd really see most of my gains if I took any of the orals. Now, where would I rank it as far as the potency in terms of what it'll give you for strength? So I would obviously have tren acetate as the number one. And this is excluding things like check drops. This is and tren base. But tren acetate would be number one. And then I would put a couple others. I would put Dbol at number 4 as far as the strongest steroids that I took from deriving strength gains from them. So I would go tren, Anavar, Superdrol, number 3, and then Dbol number 4 behind Superdrol, Anavar, and tren. Some may disagree with that, and I'll do separate videos on Superdrol and Anavar. But Dbol I put 4th. I liked it more than Anadrol. I felt better strength gains from it. Definitely noticed better strength gains overall. I just seem to respond better to it as far as that goes. I think my first 635 squat was on Dbol. It blew my squat up from 570 naturally to 635 on Dbol. So really good strength gains. I can't quite remember deadlift wise. I think I got into the upper 7s pretty quick on it. It really got me really close to 8. So I had some really good strength gains. Bench freaking blew up. That was another one. So bench probably had the best progress. Bench got in the upper 3s, close to 4, real fast because I was only about 315, a 315 bencher naturally. And Dbol really took things to the next level. So crazy strength gains, not on the level of tren, obviously, and I did put a couple others before it. But overall, really impressive strength gains. I've seen a buddy of mine actually recently ran Dbol. And he ran it for a long time, but he went his first 500-pound bench on it. So my buddy David, he just hit a 500-pound bench on Dbol, and he couldn't even do that on tren. So I've literally seen people respond better to Dbol than tren as far as the strength gains. So take that, for what it's worth. Now, one of the, negative side effects that it's notorious for is the weight gain / moon face. So moon face is where you get all this puffiness in your face. You're retaining a lot of water, which happens with Dbol, and your face just really puffs out and you don't have any kind of shape in your jawline or anything. And it's not a good look. Your face looks fat, basically, for lack of a better term. You just get this fat looking face, which is called moon face. And that's the bloating you see in your face from Dbol. Prednisone, a catabolic steroid that is often prescribed for inflammation and illnesses and things like that, will do this as well, especially if ran for a prolonged period of time. But Dbol, that's one of its most notorious side effects. The moon face, you will not look aesthetic on Dbol, particularly if you're not eating a clean diet. I suppose if you were eating a clean diet, yes, you can mitigate some of that water retention. but the water retention on D-bol is very real. That's where all the weight gain comes from. D-bol was how I got to my heaviest weight when I was competing consistently. I got up to 262 pounds before Boss of Bosses out in California. And I'd never been, at that point. I could get to 255 on other anabolic steroids, but 262 pounds is what D-bol got me to, which is the biggest I've ever been in my life. I was huge. And one interesting thing that kind of ties into that is anytime I would take D-bol, automatic half-inch gain on my arm size. So even without even training arms, I'd gain a half-inch on my arms just from the weight gain, the water retention, all that sort of thing. So it's a good and a bad thing. If you want to look bigger overall, D-bol will do that. But a lot of it is not very clean weight, especially you'll see it in your face. It's pretty easy to spot somebody when they're on D-bol. You can see their face and see the water retention, which is a higher level than like a Anadrol. So obviously this water retention, this excessive water retention is going to greatly increase your blood pressure. I would say nothing, well, that's not true, but maybe not as much as tren, but the weight gain in a different way, it's going to raise your blood pressure for sure. If you gain weight, I've gone over this before, if you get heavier, period, whether you're on anabolic steroids or off, your blood pressure is going to go off. Simply being heavier makes your blood pressure go up. And as your blood pressure goes up, I've gone over this as well, you get stronger. Higher blood pressure results in greater strength. That's why anabolic steroids, one of the mechanisms in which they get you stronger. So biomarkers, just like with any anabolic steroid, I could go over this. It's all the same. HDL is going to go down. LDL is going to go up. And not a tremendous effect on the triglycerides, but that's more diet related and such, genetics and all that sort of thing. But HDL is going to go down. LDL is going to go up. You're going to see your liver enzymes elevated. I've seen liver enzymes over 100 in a lot of anabolic steroid users who use orals. I've seen 200. I've heard of 3. One of my guys just told me he had 300 level liver enzymes, ALT and AST, which is quite a lot of stress on the liver. So if you're on an oral steroid, you're obviously going to want to take TUDCA, which is the #1 liver protectant supplement on the market, at I'd say 600 milligrams a day. So what I would do when I would run any oral steroid, particularly the stronger ones like halotestin or whatever, I would do 300 milligrams of TUDCA in the morning and 300 milligrams of TUDCA in the evening. You can find a good source for this. My sponsor, one of them, Leviathan Nutrition, use my code Pete. Just shouting that out in there because TUDCA is a legit supplement. TUDCA, even if you're not on anabolic steroids, is a tremendous health supplement. It's an antioxidant. It protects the liver, protects the gallbladder, gets rid of gallstones, all these major benefits. TUDCA is one of the best things out there. But I would take TUDCA, like I said, 300 milligrams morning, 300 evening, and then NAC, N-acetylcysteine. So there was kind of a weird period about 2 years ago where the government cracked down on N-acetylcysteine, but it's also an antioxidant that acts on the liver, whereas TUDCA kind of clears out the bile ducts. NAC is an antioxidant. So NAC was another thing I would run, N-acetylcysteine. Those are the 2 things I would run on any oral steroid to protect your liver, and that's really going to help with just keeping those liver enzymes down. For blood pressure, you're just going to have to do cardio. That's kind of the main thing. Cardio or take an ARB like telmisartan, valsartan. There's tons of them out there, losartan. But before you guys just immediately jump into blood pressure medications, I would do cardio 4 to 5 days a week, low intensity in the zone 3 type range. Zone 3 cardio, I can do this in a different video. That's going to help protect you. Now, getting away from the health kind of stuff, mental side effects, none. D-bol, if anything, is known for calming people, making them feel more euphoric. You're going to feel better overall on D-bol. Just a greater sense of well-being, similar to what you would see with testosterone. So D-bol, very minimal sides mentally. There's nothing bad. Roid rage does not come at all from D-bol. D-bol does not give people roid rage. That's mainly tren. So that's not at all a thing. That's why roid rage is very misleading. It mainly gets that rap. Steroids get that rap from tren and a few other I can get at later on. But D-bol, absolutely not roid rage at all. You're going to feel amazing. The estrogenic side effects are very real. It converts to estrogen very highly, which is where the weight gain comes from, the water retention. And this is actually something I dealt with very, very badly. My estrogen levels got up around estradiol around 200. and I had horrific cystic acne, really bad cystic acne, actually. So this was what I really think blew the doors off in terms of getting that. If you had a lot of acne as a teenager when you hit puberty, you're probably going to have some acne on cycle. I know Mark Plummer has also had this happen to him, and there's other stories on YouTube of steroid users with cystic acne. Dbol blew mine out of the water. It was by far the worst thing for the cystic acne, which I got all over my upper back, on my arms and shoulders, on my chest, but mainly my upper back. It would be so bad that it would bleed through my t-shirts. It would, bleed all over my sheets. Disgusting. These huge cysts that were gross would pop and they'd bleed. And if you squatted, the bar would squish them and they'd bleed all over your back. It's disgusting. It is. But this was a very real side effect of Dbol that I had. I feel like I got the cystic acne from three things. Dbol was the worst. Trenbolone enanthate was also another one. And then testosterone propionate. Those are the three things that really gave me the cystic acne. And if I maybe had my estrogen under control more, maybe I wouldn't have had it so much. But I can actually show you guys still. I have scars to this day. I don't have any cystic acne anymore, obviously, but I have scars from 10 years ago from that first cycle on Dbol as far as what that did to me. So I was rather fortunate to not have gynecomastia was not a thing for me. I never had to deal with it on any of my cycles ever. But cystic acne was very real. So you can kind of see here, I don't know how closely you can see that. That's a cystic acne scar. I have some here. All that is just from Dbol. So I'm trying to kind of give you guys, see that? This 10 years later from Dbol. That's all acne scars from Dbol. All that. That just gives you an example. That doesn't go away. It's faded. And if I get really tan, I know I'm pale as a ghost, but if I get really tan from like tanning and taking melanotan, and that I can make another video about melanotan too. I have tremendous experience with that. If I take melanotan and tan, you can barely see this at all, these scars. But these scars are very real. This is from, like I said, that's all scars, guys. That's all raised cystic acne scars from my first cycle. So that's one of the crappy things with Dbol. Now, like I said, if I had my estrogen under control better, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But that's one of the things that I dealt with Dbol, which really turned me off on it for a very long time. But I feel like that's a pretty good comprehensive breakdown of Dbol. Typically, people run it 4 to 6 weeks, 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams. If you're going to run 50 milligrams, you want to do 25 in the morning, 25 in the evening to better cover the half-life. You'll get more out of it. So overall, there were a lot of estrogenic sides. Moon face looked really bad. Face was extremely bloated. Strength gains were quite good. I'd say number 4 overall as far as the strongest steroids in my ranking. Some good, some bad. Really good if you want to get strong. Not so good for physique purposes. And the side effects were real. If you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe for the sake of the algorithm, helping out the channel. I'm going to keep this series going, keep the videos coming. Like I said, I don't condone anabolic steroids in any way. I'm just simply giving my experience.